Hello friends, welcome to today's video. Today is going to be a what I ate in a day and how I exercised in a day on the Weight Watchers mywwblue plan. For those of you who've seen these videos before, I like to film a day of eating and keep track of my exercise, and then the next day I sit down and tell you about it. It gives me a chance to reflect on the day, it gives me a chance to tell you what I thought of the recipes that I made, and also if there was any nighttime snacking or anything that happened, it gives me a chance to sort of keep track of that and talk about it in this video. So the day in question ended up being a 17-point day. I usually aim to get at least 19 points so that, you know, if I can only have 4 roll over, I'm using my max points I can have for the day. But you'll see I was a little under today, and I'll explain that as we get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is just show you my coffee. It's kind of the same every time, so let's just start with that clip. As always, I'm going to start out by showing you my coffee for the day. I do make my coffee just in a regular coffee pot, and I like it with some milk. I did pick up for the first time this Joya milk. It's higher protein. It says there's 75% more protein. I don't know that it makes a difference points-wise. A half cup of it is 2 points, which is the amount that I put in because that's about how much I have over a morning, between 2 to 3 cups of coffee. I also like my coffee a little bit sweeter. Sometimes I will use equal sweetener, but I've also been enjoying using this skinny syrup. This is the caramel pecan flavor, and that adds like a nice sweetness to it. So I'm doing it in a travel mug right now because I'm going out to do a few errands, but this is my morning coffee for 2 points. The higher protein milk really doesn't make any difference taste or flavor-wise, which I guess is the same thing, and it doesn't really seem to make much of a difference points-wise, maybe a little bit, but I don't mind trying to sneak a little bit more protein into my day wherever possible. So I will mention in terms of exercise that I did do a little more than 30 minutes on my Peloton bike. Some days I do classes, and some days, like the day in question, I just figure if I feel like watching some YouTube or a video, I'll just do that on the bike. So that was what I did. It wasn't a class or anything, it was just sort of like straight out cycling for, I think 36 minutes was how long it took me to watch what I wanted to watch. We're going to go into the clip of my breakfast next, but I do want to preface this by saying that in the clip I mentioned the breakfast sandwich roll as being 3 points. It was actually 4, so you'll see that as we go through. And also I should mention that at the end of this video I do show you a screen with all of the points like screen capped from the Weight Watchers app, as well as my exercise screen capped from my Apple Watch fitness tracker, so you'll see all of that at the end, but now let's get into breakfast. For my breakfast this morning, I've made a breakfast sandwich. So what I have here is just a Dempster's hamburger bun. It is 3 points for the bun. I scrambled up 1 egg with 1 triangle of light Laughing Cow cheese, and the cheese is 1 point. And then for a little bit of extra flavor, I decided to try something new. I used a slice of tofu, the extra firm tofu, which is 0 points, and I marinated it in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce and then put pepper and chili powder on it and put it in the air fryer to try to make kind of a tofu bacon. As I mentioned, to add some extra flavor, but also some extra protein. And then just to finish it off, I put a little bit of everything but the bagel seasoning and a banana with it. So altogether, this is a 4-point breakfast. This ended up being a really nice breakfast sandwich. If you like creamy scrambled eggs, then adding a triangle of Laughing Cow cheese is really a great way to do it. The way that I do it is I chop the triangle up into tiny pieces, and then as soon as I put the egg in to start cooking and scrambling in a pan, I add in the bits of cheese, and as it all comes together, it sort of melts together. You don't get chunks of cheese. You don't even necessarily taste that there's cheese in there, but it's very creamy and really nice. And then I was also really happy with how the tofu bacon turned out. I did it in my little air fryer for, I want to say at like 380 for almost 20 minutes, which made it like crunchy. Like it's overcooked, but that's kind of what I wanted because I got crunchy edges on it, which was a nice contrast with the creamy scrambled egg. And because I did marinate it in some Worcestershire sauce, which tends to be kind of salty, it did add like a nice salty, crunchy kick to the sandwich that ended up being really good and really satisfying. Before we get into lunch, I'll mention that throughout the day I did little walks, a lot of walking, so that really did add up through the day. I also did a at-home strength training kind of session. I have some little free weights that I bought during quarantine, and I do know, even though I prefer cardio exercises, I do know how important it is to do strength resistance training, so I do try to do that. It is the kind of exercise I tend to put off more than others, but I did do that during the day. You're just not going to see it reflected at the end because I don't really set the watch up to track weight training because I don't know, I just don't tend to. I don't want it to like overestimate my calories burned. But I did do some walks, and I think I did the weight training before I had my lunch. Let's get into my lunch. Here we have my lunch. Those of you who have watched my channel before will recognize this, although I made it look a little fancier today. That is my 0-point black bean chili. I topped it with some 0% plain Greek yogurt, and I mixed that Greek yogurt with a little bit of lime juice and salt to make sort of a lime crema. I also put some Cholula hot sauce on it, and then just a couple of pickled jalapenos. And then over here, we have just some chopped up carrot sticks for veggies, and I made a dip out of, again, non-fat plain Greek yogurt and part of a package of French onion soup. So it's kind of like making the French onion soup dip that you would find on the container of French onion soup, but instead of using sour cream, I use yogurt. A good tip for that, if you're gonna make it, is to make it at least a couple hours ahead because it gives the dip a chance to rehydrate the onion that's in it and just have all the flavors mixed through. So I'm counting 1 point for this lunch because the dip mix scans as 1 point. It was a little confusing how much is 1 point, but I figured I would count it as 1 point so that I have my bases covered. So I am off to go enjoy my lunch. That chili is always a winner to me. It is spicy, it is filling from the beans, it is a little creamy from the Greek yogurt, just wonderful, and I really liked having a little bit of the pickled jalapenos in there. It added sort of a nice little burst of flavor here and there, even though I mostly just did it to make it look nice for the camera. And yeah, the dip tasted fine. I did not eat all of the dip that was there. I ate maybe half of it. I like to sort of mix up a couple of servings and then just eat it over a couple of days. I want to mention that originally in my plan, and what I often do is the evening before or in the morning, I will sit down and put everything into my Weight Watchers tracker so that I'm like pre-tracking it and then eating it through the day, and then I'll make adjustments as necessary. I did originally pre-track having a Premier Protein and some chopped up fresh pineapple. I had the pineapple ready to go in the fridge. That would have given me an extra 2 points for the protein shake and would have gotten me to 19 points the day, but I just wasn't hungry. I even kept it to the end of the day in case I felt like having it as a before bedtime snack, but I wasn't hungry and I didn't want to have the extra points just for the sake of having the extra points. I think my most exciting meal of the day was my dinner, so let's get into dinner. Hey guys, so I'm very excited about my dinner. I have here a sushi bowl. This was a meal that was inspired by and pretty much taken directly from the channel Nikki Gets Fit. So in my bowl there, underneath, there is rice. I put in 6 points worth of jasmine rice. And then on top, I have some tuna that was packed in water for 0 points. I mixed that tuna with some sriracha, a teaspoon of sesame oil, and also a Laughing Cow light cheese triangle. So that adds 2 points, one for the triangle, one for the sesame oil. And that should sort of give it that spicy, creamy tuna that you might get in a sushi roll. I then have edamame, I have shredded carrot, I have chopped up cucumber. Those are all 0 points. I sprinkled a little bit of everything but the bagel seasoning on top because it's really just sesame and poppy seed. And then to the left there, I have my sauce that I'm gonna mix together. It is wasabi. It's apparently 1 point for a tablespoon of wasabi. I thought it was gonna be 0, but it's not. And then soy sauce. So I'm gonna mix that together and pour it over top. So if I'm adding up properly, this ends up being a 9-point dinner, and I'm super looking forward to it. I absolutely loved this dinner, and I do want to say that only in the last few weeks really have I discovered Nikki Gets Fit's channel. I think I said that right. I will link it down below. She has done an amazing job on her journey. Her and her boyfriend, I think, or husband, I'm not sure if they're married or not, are both on the Weight Watchers plan together. She has wonderful recipe videos, and she did a video that was all of her favorite bowls. And I feel like I've seen a lot of like Mexican bowls and things in that area, but I had never seen somebody do a sushi bowl before. And I think I would mix this up in terms of having tuna, but then also having some air fried tofu. I think that would be really good in there, marinating it again in maybe a little bit of soy and a little bit of spice, and then tossing it with some cornstarch, because then it gets really nice and crispy in the air fryer. So if you wanted to make this in a vegetarian version, that would be really great. Originally, when I was planning this, I wanted to have a little bit of pickled ginger on the side like you do when you get sushi. I couldn't find any in the store that I went to. Now, I used about a tablespoon of wasabi, and I like spicy food, but it's obviously been a while since I've had wasabi, or I got some kind of extra hot one, because I would not recommend using the amount that I used. I had my first bite and it was like my sinuses just exploded, and I thought like, oh my God, I must have gotten like just one big bite of wasabi at this point, just in that first bite, but no. It was that spicy the entire time through. So I love the flavors of it. It was wonderful, but I'll probably end up having the leftovers for dinner tonight because I have the stuff to make the bowl again. And what I think I'll use is a little less than half a tablespoon of wasabi, because 3/8 of a tablespoon is 0 points, and then it won't be like blowing my palate out with spice. But this was such a lovely bowl to have. Just really fresh, lots of veggies, lean protein, the rice in there, and the flavor of it was lovely as well. So I would highly recommend it, and I would highly recommend going and watching Nikki's channel. So I mentioned tracking my points, and I mentioned tracking my exercise. I don't mention this all the time on here, but I do track my water intake as well. I use an app called Plant Nanny. I do have it set to aim for like 118 ounces of water per day, which is a little less than a gallon. I don't always hit that by pure water. Now I do have coffee, I do have protein drinks. I tend not to track those so I can try to see how much like just water that I'm getting. So I do end up getting about a gallon of like fluid drinks per day, but I'll just show you the water that I drank yesterday as well. And finally, in terms of exercise, just to sum this day up, I did end up getting just over 1,000 calories burned in move calories with 72 minutes of exercise between the biking and the walking. I did walk 16,683 steps, and I was pretty proud of the amount of activity that I got that day. So this is the end of the video. As I mentioned, there will be screenshots of the end of my points and of my exercise. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you haven't subscribed already. That really helps out my channel. But I'd also put out there that if you have any suggestions of people on Instagram or YouTube who are on the Weight Watchers Blue plan that I can follow. Some of my favorites haven't been posting as much lately, and I do love getting inspiration from other channels and other creators who are out there. So please leave those recommendations down below for me and for everyone else. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!